There's a number I want you to hold in your head for this entire story. Bashitsimeyen. Ling ling ling. That's what I cleared last year, managing commercial build-outs for a regional development firm that doesn't know my son's birthday. Not rich money. Good money. The kind of money that lets you book a beachfront villa in Tulum for a week and still wake up the next morning without your hands shaking. Which is exactly what I did. My name is Dale Mercer. I'm 47 years old. I live in a tan brick house in East Mesa off a road called Ironwood Terrace. And for 21 years, I have been the kind of husband and father who does things without being asked. I retiled the guest bathroom because my wife, Vanessa, mentioned once in a passing conversation that the grout looked dingy. I spent 3 weekends last fall rehanging every interior door in the house because our daughter, Caitlin, complained the hinges squeaked when she got home late. Nobody requested any of it. I just heard a problem and fixed it the way I fix everything quietly, completely, and without keeping score. Or so I thought. It turns out there's a difference between not keeping score and not noticing that you're the only one on the field. I didn't know that yet in February. When I slid my phone across the kitchen counter on a Tuesday morning with a booking confirmation pulled up on the screen, Tulum, I said, 10 days. Beachfront bungalows. Private dock. Full-service resort access. I booked it for the week after school lets out. Vanessa's eyes went genuinely wide. Not her client meeting wide. The performed version. Her real wide. Where her hand goes to her mouth and the ring on her finger catches the light. Dale, she said, voice dropping to something close to stunned. How much was this? 11 grand. I told her. Don't stress it. 4 words. I've replayed them about 600 times since. They have a very different sound to them now, Caitlin found out an hour later. Already dressed for class. Backpack half zipped. And she actually grabbed my arm and shook it. She said, Dad, are you serious right now? Oh my God. I have to tell everyone. She pulled out her phone before she was even fully through the front door. Just wait until we're actually there. I called after her. Don't jinx it. She was already posting. I want you to hold on to that moment. The shaking, the wide eyes, the genuine shock of someone feeling seen. Because it was the last time in this story that either of them looked at me like I was a person rather than a resource. 2 months of doubled shifts and skipped lunches paid for that trip. I brought sandwiches from home and ate in my truck in parking lots to save the 20 minutes of driving back and forth. I turned down a weekend trip with my old college roommate because I couldn't afford the time away from sight. By the time the trip was 6 days out, I was coasting on 4 hours of sleep and gas station coffee. But I had a countdown in my phone's calendar and a folder of Tulum restaurant reservations that had taken me 3 evenings to build, 4 days before departure. I was in the backyard pulling weeds along the fence line when something went wrong in a very specific, very hard to misread way. A pain hit my lower right side so fast and so sharp that I dropped the hand trowel and grabbed the fence post just to stay upright. I stood there for a second trying to breathe through it, thinking maybe I'd pulled something. Maybe I was dehydrated. Then I tried to take a step and couldn't. I sat down on the lawn instead. Then I lay down. The grass was cool and the sky was very blue and I could hear the neighbor's kids playing 2 yards over and I thought, very clearly, something is genuinely wrong with me. Vanessa found me 15 minutes later when she came out to ask about dinner. She stood at the sliding door holding a dish towel and just looked at me lying in the grass. Dale, she said. What are you doing? Hospital. I managed. Something's wrong with my abdomen. The diagnosis was a perforated appendix. I was in Mesa Valley Hospital for 1 night. 1 night, because that's the current standard. Apparently. Where they repair the damage. Pump you full of antibiotics. And discharge you before the IV even has time to leave a mark. I left with a 3-inch incision held together with surgical adhesive. A prescription bag. and a sheet of printed recovery guidelines that said, in underlined bold text, patient should not be left alone. Regular monitoring required for a minimum of 7 to 10 days. Vanessa drove me home from the hospital without saying much. I told myself she was processing. Fear looks like silence sometimes, and she tends to internalize instead of expressive. I gave her room. I gave her a full day of room. By the end of the second day, I understood that what I was hearing wasn't fear. It was arithmetic. I was propped up against the headboard, still drowsy from the painkillers, when I heard her voice coming from the hallway. She had the clipped, slightly too controlled tone she uses on contractors who miss deadlines. No, I know. Rachel, she was saying. I know. But the bungalows are entirely non-refundable. That's the whole problem. If we don't go, $11,000 just disappears. He'll be fine. The doctor said rest and quiet. We'd honestly just be getting in his way. I lay very still on my side of the bed and listened to her solve the equation my emergency surgery had created. That night, Vanessa sat on the edge of the mattress. She was dressed, suitcase already positioned near the closet door. Her hair was done. Her carry-on was zipped. Honey, she started. And I want you to understand the exact tone she used because I've thought about it every day since. It was gentle, in the way that a dentist is gentle, right before they tell you a tooth can't be saved. Look, the deposit is completely gone if we stay. And the doctor did say you need stillness to heal. Honestly, us being here underfoot would probably just slow your recovery. You know how you get when people fuss. I stared at her. You're going, Dale. Caitlin has been so excited. She has her whole trip mapped out. You wouldn't want to take that away from her. There it was. The move I hadn't known was in her playbook until the moment she ran it. Make it about someone else, so my objection turns me into the one doing the harm. Vanessa, I said, carefully. I cannot stand on my own. I can't drive. I can barely make it to the kitchen without holding onto the wall. You're talking about leaving me alone for 10 days after abdominal surgery. She was already checking her phone. We'll FaceTime every evening, she said. She set a box of crackers and a bottle of water on the nightstand with the matter-of-fact efficiency of someone making sure the dog had food before a weekend trip. Kissed me on the forehead and called Rachel from the hallway, so Dale obviously can't come. I heard her say, such terrible timing. You guys should take the Sunrise bungalow instead of us. Seriously. Don't let it sit empty. The garage door went down at 7:18 inches the morning. The house made the specific silence that comes when it understands it's been left. She never said the words aloud. She didn't need to. It was in the crackers on the nightstand. It was in the suitcase-shaped depression, already flattening itself out in the carpet. It was in the cheerful tone she used to tell Rachel to upgrade. The message was loud enough without a single word. Your emergency is inconvenient. And I have travel insurance, but not the kind that covers you. I don't know exactly how long I lay there before the front door opened. Long enough that the crackers were gone. Long enough that I'd been seriously calculating whether I could make it to the kitchen without falling. Then I heard a voice from the entryway. Uncle Dale, it's me. Don't panic. My nephew. Owen. He's 24. He works prep and line cook shifts at an upscale sports bar off Gilbert Road. And he's been trying to save enough to launch his own food cart for going on 2 years now. Vanessa has referred to him more than once at dinner tables and once at my company holiday party. As a professional mooch, not always quietly, not always out of his earshot. He appeared in the doorway in a Carhartt hoodie with his car keys still in his hand and just took the room in. His eyes went from me to the empty water bottle, to the cracker wrappers, to the suitcase dent in the carpet. Your mom called me, he said quietly. They went to Tulum. I told him. Couldn't get the refund. He nodded once. Set his keys on the dresser. When did you last eat something that actually counted as food? I didn't know. And somehow, that specific question, not, are you okay? Not, can I call someone that specific? Practical question broke through whatever numbness the painkillers had built around everything. Give me half an hour. Owen said, I'm making you actual broth. Real broth. Not the powder kind. He disappeared toward the kitchen. I heard cabinets, a burner clicking on, the low sound of him talking to himself, the way people do when they're cooking and thinking at the same time. The house started smelling like something other than recycled air and medical-grade adhesive. My phone buzzed. A photo. Vanessa. Caitlin. And two women I recognized as Rachel and a friend named Donna. All four of them in sundresses on a white sand beach. Drinks condensing in the heat. Ocean impossibly blue behind them. The caption read, finally breathing again. I put the phone face down on the nightstand. I lay there listening to Owen hum something tuneless in my kitchen. And for the first time since, the garage floor, I let my shoulders come down from around my ears. Exhale. Vanessa. Take your time. The week that followed had a texture I haven't been able to shake. Grief smells like chicken broth and rubbing alcohol. Betrayal sounds like a phone notification you're too tired to dread anymore. By the second day of the trip, I was moving short distances on my own, bent forward. One hand braced against the wall. Shuffling between rooms like a man trying not to alert his own body to the fact that he was upright. Owen had gone home to shower and grab a change of clothes. And for a few hours, I was alone with the ceiling fan and my phone. A notification came in around noon. Caitlin, how are you doing? Something cracked open in my chest that I genuinely thought had sealed over. I sat up too fast, winced hard, and started typing before the rational part of my brain could stop me. Not a short reply. A real one. I told her I was moving a little better. That Owen had been incredible. That I'd been thinking about the summer she and I had repainted the garden shed and how she'd picked the color and it came out perfect. I said I missed her. I said I wished she were there. I watched the message go to delivered. Then I watched it sit there. An hour passed. Then another. By evening, nothing. She circled back the next morning. But not the way I'd been hoping. I was scrolling to distract myself from the steady throb under my ribs. And Caitlin's social media account came up. I followed it at Owen's insistence because otherwise you just ask her questions every 5 minutes and she hates that. She'd posted a video. She and Donna's daughter doing some kind of lip-sync sketch in matching resort swimwear. And the text overlay read, when dad sends a 400 word text about a garden shed while literally in Tulum lol. With a string of emojis and a sound I didn't recognize. 62,000 views. I read the caption 4 times. Each time it said the same thing. I deleted the long draft I'd been composing, the one where I'd started to describe what it felt like on the garage floor. The way I'd wondered in those first white-hot seconds of pain if this was something I was going to die from. And whether I'd gotten a chance to say the things I should have said. Gone. All of it. I set the phone face down and looked at the ceiling fan, making its slow, patient rotations above me. And something that had been very warm inside my chest went very still and very cold. You spend 2 decades teaching a kid to ride a bike. To parallel park. To believe they're worth more than the worst thing anyone's ever said about them. And somewhere in there, between the bike rides and the tuition deposits, they learn to make content out of your pain. I didn't cry. I want to be clear about that. I didn't cry. Something quieter and more durable happened instead. Something that didn't need to make noise to be permanent. Owen came back that evening with a grocery bag from a Mexican market 3 blocks over dried chiles, fresh tomatillos, a half-pound of queso fresco, the ingredients for a proper pozole verde. Not the sad cracker and broth era we were leaving behind. He caught me staring at the middle distance. You good? He asked. setting the bag on the counter and reading the room the way he always does, without making a production of it. Fine, I said. The word felt hollow in my mouth. I noticed, distantly, that it was the same word Vanessa had apparently used on the phone with Rachel from the hospital hallway. He's fine. He just needs quiet. Owen didn't push. That's one of his qualities I hadn't fully noticed before that week. He doesn't push. He just stays. He set up at my kitchen island and started breaking down the cheels with a confidence that had nothing to do with performance. And I sat on a stool and watched him work. And the sound of a knife on a wooden board was genuinely the most grounding thing I had experienced in days. Around 9 that night, his phone lit up on the counter. He checked it, and something moved through his face quick, controlled, and he put it in his pocket. I let it go. I shouldn't have. 2 days later, I heard him out on the side patio at close to midnight, voice low and tight. The way you talk when you're trying not to wake someone and also trying not to lose your temper. I know it was a real opportunity. Ma. Kitchen manager. Benefits. The whole package. I know. A pause. What was I supposed to do? Uncle Dale literally can't get himself off the floor. You want me to just leave him? Another pause. I already called them back. I told them it wasn't going to work out. It's done. Don't. I lay in the dark with a crack of porch light showing under my door and felt something shift very quietly inside me. Not grief. Not exactly anger. Something more like clarity. Arriving slowly. Like ice melting, irreversible, and very cold. He gave up a real job. Not a maybe job. Not a part-time gig. A kitchen manager position with benefits and a career path. He gave it up without telling me. Without asking for anything. Without once making me feel like a burden. Which is a thing my wife of 21 years apparently could not manage for a single afternoon. I didn't say anything to him about it. Not then. But I remembered. Day 5. I was almost asleep when my phone lit up with Vanessa's contact photo. Some reflex made me pick up 21 years of picking up. Is not a habit that breaks in 5 days. Hey, she said. And her voice was softer than it had been in months, with a slight blur at the edges that suggested margaritas. Hey, I said. I'm sorry. She said. I know this has been hard. I've been so stretched thin. Dale. The interior design business not picking up the way I planned for. Caitlin's tuition situation. The house stuff. I just needed a few days to breathe. I needed to feel like a person again. And here is the part where I nearly undid everything. Because for one honest second, my chest actually loosened. 21 years of marriage is a long time. An old love doesn't die cleanly. It lingers in the walls like the smell of a house you grew up in. Come home, then, I said carefully. Come home and we'll figure it out. That's what we're supposed to do. Vanessa. Together. I know. She said. I know. I just need a few more days. I'm sorry. Dale. I really am. We hung up. I lay in the dark, turning those words over like flat rocks on a riverbank, looking for the version of them that meant what I needed them to mean. I found my answer at 6:45 the next morning. Instagram. New post. Vanessa. Rachel. And Donna in white robes at a resort spa. Clay masks. Cucumber water. All 3 of them grinning at the camera. The caption, self-care isn't selfish. You cannot pour from an empty cup. Protect your peace. I read it 3 times. She hadn't been apologizing to me. She'd been apologizing for herself, processing guilt the way she processes everything. Privately and efficiently. And then moving on. There's a difference between those 2 things. It took me 21 years and a ruptured appendix to learn it clearly. But there it was. I set the phone on the counter harder than I meant to. Owen looked up from the stove without comment. Fine, I said, before he could ask. He didn't push. The mail came around 10:30. Owen brought it in a hardware store circular, a package for Caitlin, and one thick envelope printed with a bold yellow banner across the top. Certified mail. Signature required. Under normal circumstances, Vanessa handles the mail. I'd never thought much about that. She's quick about it. Takes the stack off the counter before I've fully registered it's arrived. Little habit. Unremarkable. I thought about it now. Can you open that? I said, nodding at the yellow envelope. My hands are still too unsteady from the medication. Owen tore it open, unfolded the letter, and I watched his face do the thing faces do when they're trying to stay steady while delivering something that isn't. Uncle Dale, he said, slowly. This is from your mortgage servicer. Read it. He cleared his throat. Notice of default. 90 days past due. If payment not received within 30 days, proceedings will be initiated. The kitchen went very quiet. Impossible, I said. I set up automated payments years ago. The 15th of every month. Direct from the joint account. Owen held the letter out toward me. The letter said otherwise. I sat on the stool and looked at that piece of paper, and my mind went somewhere specific. I thought about the 3 weekends I spent pulling up the old flooring in the kitchen and laying new tile by hand. The summer I re-waterproofed the entire back deck. The November I worked nights to get ahead of a project deadline, so I could take 2 weeks off and finally repaint the exterior before the HOA sent us a warning. I built this house with weekend after weekend of my own labor, and someone had been quietly dismantling the foundation behind a closed door. Chris. Owen, I said, and my voice came out, controlled in a way that surprised me. Get me to my laptop. Every account was locked. Every password changed. Mortgage. Joint checking. Joint savings. The home equity line. All of it locked with credentials I didn't recognize and hadn't created. I spent 40 minutes on hold with the mortgage servicer, smooth jazz, and a woman's recorded voice telling me my call was important before a representative reset my access using my social security number. What I found on the inside turned my stomach in a way that had nothing to do with the surgical scar. 2 personal loans, both tied to my legal name, both bearing a digital signature that used the platform's own metadata to timestamp itself. The loans had been finalized at 2:17 inches the afternoon. On the Wednesday I was in surgery. IP address matched our home wireless network. The digital certificate trail was elementary, the kind of thing that would take a forensic accountant about 11 minutes to trace. Combined total $43. Ling ling ling. I pulled up Vanessa's Interior Design LLC account. The $43. 000 had landed, and, within 72 hours, moved in 3 directions. Large transfers to Rachel and Donna, labeled Project Retainer. A payment to a charter company I didn't recognize, and a series of purchases at resort properties and a private beach club in the Yucatan Peninsula. Owen. She didn't just overspend, I said, the numbers finally locking into sequence. I paid $11,000 for the bungalows and flights. She used forged loans in my name to fund the rest of it. The yacht, the spa days, the private club access. She forged my signature to bankroll a vacation I already paid for. And she literally transferred money from that loan to Rachel and Donna so they could come with her. Owen stood very still in the kitchen doorway for a long moment. Then he said, quietly, "You need a lawyer tonight." I called a family law attorney named Preston Hale, referred to me by my company's corporate counsel, who handled contracts and construction disputes, and freely admitted this was several zip codes outside his expertise. Preston's voice was calm in the way of someone who has spent 15 years seeing human beings at their absolute worst and no longer loses sleep over any of it. "Here's where you stand," he said. "If you report the forgery and with that digital timestamp and IP address. The trail is airtight. Your wife is looking at federal charges. Bankfraud. Identity theft. We're not talking misdemeanor territory. If you don't report it, that $43. 0 inches debt is yours. Your name is on it. And if I do report it, I said, then you have leverage in a divorce proceeding that almost nobody ever has. He paused, letting that land. The kind that ends negotiations before they start. I sat with that for a long time. The incision aching. The house quiet. Owen washing dishes in the kitchen with the low, unhurried sound of someone who is completely at peace with exactly where he is. 21 years. She'd forged my name on 2 loan documents. But she'd been forging the whole marriage for longer than that, making it look like a certain kind of thing. Signing my name to a life I'd never been consulted about. I logged into the banking app. 2 cards. Vanessa's platinum card on our joint account, and her personal card backed by one of the fraudulent loans. I pulled up both toggles. Last chance to be reasonable. I thought. Last chance to let it slide. To be the bigger man. I'd been the bigger man for 21 years. I knew exactly where it had gotten me. I switched both cards off. Her text arrived at 8:50 that evening. Card declined at dinner. Must be a system error. Can you check? I didn't answer. She called 15 minutes later. I could hear the restaurant behind her cutlery. Low voices. Somebody laughing at a nearby table. Her voice was very controlled and very tight. Seth. Something's wrong with both my cards. There's got to be a bank issue. Can you log in and fix it? Nothing wrong with them. I said. I turned them off. Silence. Real silence. The kind that has a physical weight. You, what, Dale? We're at a restaurant. Rachel and Donna are right here. This is completely. She dropped her voice. Are you trying to embarrass me? Turn them back on. Right now, there it was. Not worry about the marriage. Not even embarrassment about the debt. Just the unbearable possibility that Rachel and Donna might see a crack in the facade. She'd spent $43,000 borrowed dollars to maintain. I kept my voice even. I didn't turn them off to embarrass you. Vanessa. I turned them off because they're my cards. My name. My credit. Since you didn't want the trip money to go to waste. I'm sure Rachel and Donna can cover dinner tonight. Don't rush home on my account. I hung up before she finished her sentence. Owen looked at me over the kitchen counter with one eyebrow raised. Yeah, I said. I know. I didn't sleep much that night. But it wasn't the incision keeping me awake. It was the legal pad Preston had told me to keep dates. Dollar amounts. Screenshots. The shape of a case that was less like revenge and more like a structural demolition. I know demolition. 20 years of construction management means you understand that the only way to safely take a building down is to do it in the right sequence. Support what needs protecting, and remove what was never load-bearing in the first place. The next morning, Preston filed for an emergency financial injunction. By early afternoon, every joint asset was frozen. Whatever cash Vanessa was carrying on the resort grounds was the last accessible money she had. Then I opened a new email to 2 addresses I'd compiled from a regional home design expo sponsor roster. Cross-referenced against Rachel's husband's veterinary practice and Donna's husband's accounting firm website. The subject line was straightforward: information you should have regarding recent financial activity. 3 attachments. My hospital discharge paperwork. Dated the same week their wives were photographed in spa robes. A clean accounting of the 2 forged loans amounts. Timestamps. Destination accounts. And a screenshot of that morning's Protect Your Peace post. Timestamped the same day I'd been trying to heat broth with one working hand. No editorial. New argument. The numbers were the argument. The timestamps were the argument. You don't throw a punch when the truth can land it cleanly for you. I sent it at 4:22 in the afternoon, and walked out to the driveway where Owen was waiting next to a silver food cart he'd found listed on a commercial equipment resale site. The thing needed repainting and the exterior signage was cracked. But the kitchen inside was exactly what he'd described to me 3 nights ago, sitting on the side, patio flat top. Prep space. A reach-in cooler that was tight but workable. He'd said it the way people talk about things they've already memorized. Already walked through in their heads 100 times. You don't have to do this, he said, hands in his pockets, trying not to sound like he meant it. I know I don't have to. I said, you turned down a real job to make sure I ate. That means something. Let's make it mean something. We settled the terms in the front seat of his car with Preston on speakerphone. My personal savings untouched. Never commingled with anything. Bearing Vanessa's name covered the purchase outright. A real business partnership. Filed properly. I'd handle licensing. The books. The operations side that I'd been doing in one form or another for 20 years on job sites. Owen would own the kitchen. Own the food. Own the thing he'd actually stay up nights thinking about. Mercer's table. Owen said, testing the words for the first time. Looking at the side of the cart like he could already see it painted there. Sounds like somewhere worth stopping for. I said, it was the first thing in 12 days that felt like it was being built rather than taken apart. They arrived home 3 days later. I tracked Caitlin's location on the family app. Vanessa had insisted we all keep years ago for safety. She'd said, back when safety was still a concern that extended beyond her own. I watched the GPS dot trace the highway from the airport. I sat at the kitchen table and waited. Owen was beside me. Preston's folder was on the table. Closed and neat. Owen himself was in the kitchen doorway. Not hiding. Not performing. Calmly wrapping his prep knives in a cloth roll in preparation for an early morning shift. Because life, unlike Vanessa's Instagram grid, moves forward, regardless of what anyone is ready for. The garage door went up, then down, footsteps on the entryway tile. Vanessa came through the front door fast, sunburned across the nose, her carry-on dragging behind her. Eyes wide and wild. Caitlin was 2 steps behind. Phone gripped like a shield. Vanessa didn't look at Preston. She came straight toward the table. Dale. What did you do? Her voice cracked. Rachel's husband called her at the airport. Donna's husband had already moved money before she landed. They wouldn't even share a car service with me from baggage claim. They think there's some kind of financial crime involved. They're talking about lawyers. Dale. What did you do? I didn't do anything. I said, keeping my voice flat and steady. I showed them the truth. I sent their husbands the loan documents with the timestamps. I sent them the transfer records showing where the money went after it hit your LLC account. I didn't call you anything. I didn't have to. The digital audit trail did it for me. I want you to picture the room the way I saw it. Me. Sitting up straight at my own kitchen table for the first time in almost 2 weeks. Shavel. Dressed. Not the man from the garage floor. Preston beside me with a closed folder, and the calm of someone who's done this many times and knows exactly how it concludes. And in the background, through the kitchen doorway, my nephew, the one Vanessa called a professional mooch at dinner tables, quietly rolling his prep knives like a man with somewhere real to be in the morning. Dale. What is wrong with you? Vanessa's voice went sharp. You have humiliated me in front of Rachel and Donna. You froze my accounts. Do you have any idea what that was like? Sit down. Vanessa. The quiet in my voice stopped her before I was finished saying it. She sat. Preston slid 2 documents across the table. Document 1. I said. A completed police report for felony, forgery, and identity theft. 2 fraudulent loans. $43,000. My name used without my knowledge or consent. That report gets filed the moment I decide to file it. Vanessa's face went pale beneath the sunburn. Dale. I can explain document 2. I continued. Not louder. Not faster. An uncontested divorce settlement. You waive the house. You waive alimony. You assume full liability for the fraudulent debt. Because it was never mine. I never signed it. The kitchen was so quiet I could hear the ice maker cycling on the other side of the refrigerator. If you sign document 2, I said, I absorb the credit damage personally. I settle directly with the lender. And you walk out of here, broke, but free. If you don't sign, I file document 1 instead. The police station is 11 minutes from here. Her hands were shaking when she picked up the pen. I watched 21 years of curated composure, every tasteful gallery wall post, every protect your peace caption, every country club event she'd spent money we didn't have, trying to belong to come apart into something much smaller and much more honest. She signed. Caitlin had been standing motionless near the front door through all of it. The moment the pen left her mother's hand, she found her voice. Are you serious right now? You're destroying our entire family over a vacation. It was never about the vacation. I said. I felt something in my chest go completely still. Sit down. Caitlin. She didn't sit. But she didn't leave. I turned my laptop toward her and pulled up her university account. I'm paying your tuition and your textbooks directly to the school. Every semester. For as long as you're enrolled. That doesn't change. Your education is not collateral for anything that happened here. Her shoulders dropped. She thought that was the whole conversation. The apartment lease I've been covering ends at the end of the month. Done. The monthly transfer I set up for you when you started college done. Your gym membership and the subscription services on my card done. You're 19 years old. If you want a life beyond tuition and books, you're going to find a job like every other 19-year-old in this country. Dad, you can't just... I can. And I am. She started to say something sharp. I could see it forming. But for once in this house, I wasn't interrupted before I was finished. When you were 6, I said, and my voice was steadier than I expected it to be. You used to bring me a glass of water when I was sick. You'd pull a chair up next to the couch and tell me about your entire day. Every tiny detail. Like each thing that happened to you was the most important thing in the world. I used to think I'm doing this right. I'm raising someone who knows how to show up for people. I looked at her. Really looked. The way I hadn't in years. I don't recognize the person in those videos. Caitlin. I hope someday you find your way back to the one who brought me that glass of water. That one was worth a lot more. She didn't storm out. She stood in the entryway and came apart quietly, tears running down a sunburned face. And I think for the first time she understood she wasn't losing an allowance. She was losing me. The fallout moved quickly after that. Rachel and Donna cut Vanessa off entirely, repositioning themselves as victims to save their own marriages. The social world. Vanessa had spent years and 43,000 forged dollars trying to belong to dissolved in less than 5 weeks. 8 weeks after that evening at the kitchen table, the divorce was finalized. Vanessa was renting a studio apartment off a surface road in Chandler, working retail at a home goods store, folding duvet covers for customers who had no idea. She used to post about private beach clubs and chartered boats. Caitlin, with tuition and books covered and nothing else, picked up night shifts at a campus coffee shop and discovered, for the first time in her life, what $1 actually takes to earn. I sold the house. There were too many rooms where I'd spent weekends fixing things for people who never once said thank you. I used my personal savings, the account Vanessa never touched. The one I'd maintained separately, without ever being sure why to buy Owen. The food cart he'd been pricing in his head for 2 years. Mercer's table is painted across the side of it now, in clean block letters. It parks most mornings near a downtown corridor with a line of regulars that starts forming before we've even unlocked the service window. Owen runs the flat top with a kind of contained joy that looks like someone finally doing the thing they were meant to do. I run the books and the licensing and the operations side from a folding table we set up in the back. 20 years of project management finally used on something I actually own. I watch him work some mornings and I think about the garage floor, the crackers on the nightstand, the pen shaking in Vanessa's hand. For 21 years, I thought I was building a home. Turns out I was building a very elaborate stage set for people who were never going to stay for the final act. Now I'm free. And I've never been lonelier. And I've never been more at peace.